We begin tonight with breaking news, a police pursuit through St. Louis. We're going to show you a live look at our chopper. Police say they're trying to track down a red Ford Fusion. It looks to be this car right here. It was taken in an armed carjacking around 7 o'clock last night, and officers have been pursuing this vehicle on both sides of the river since then. This is now on Riverview, although at one point this chase was also on Interstate 70. You can see police still pursuing this car. Again, this is an armed carjacking. It all started last night with that, and 24 hours later, police pursuing this red Ford Fusion on Riverview. Apparently, a pursuit that's taken them across the river into Illinois and then back over into St. Louis. We will continue to follow this story for you and bring you updates. You can see this car now driving on the wrong side of the road, going around other vehicles that are headed in the opposite direction. This is a very dangerous pursuit. This is in the middle of rush hour traffic. It's getting dark outside if it's not dark already, and this car is driving on the wrong side of the road to avoid police and traffic. We will continue to follow this story for you and bring you developments as they happen.
Our chopper has kind of lost the picture for just a second, and he is going behind those buildings, but now we're picking up that car. We understand that this car, this red Ford Fusion, has been going at speeds over 100 miles an hour. It's now on Broadway, as we understand it. Again, this car was apparently taken in an armed carjacking last night, and police have been pursuing this car on both sides of the river. You can see, especially at this hour, during rush hour, traffic is at a standstill in certain parts of these roads, and that car is not stopping at all.
And it's still driving on the other side, on the wrong side of the road.
Yeah, and so we are getting a good eyes on this car, on this chopper, as police continue to pursue this car. They are staying well behind the car right now, but that car, as you can tell, is going very, very fast. Well, and now it looks like the police are catching up.
Yes, this is a pursuit that has been going on for at least the past 15 or 20 minutes, and that we've been following on the chopper. But again, this all really started last night with a carjacking. So this red Ford Fusion, a car they've been looking for 24 hours now, and apparently have been chasing for quite some time, because at one point officers in the Metro East picked up on this.
And it's these intersections that really have you worried, because cars don't know this car. It just made a right turn now. Cars do not, and he may be heading for the highway. He is now
trying to get around other cars.
He's trying to get around some other cars that have pulled over to the side of the road. And you can imagine right now, as that police car continues to chase the red Ford Fusion, that those police cars not only have their lights on, but they also have their sirens on.
So that's Interstate 70. And you know, Mike, there has been a long and heated debate about the safety of police chases just like this and the accidents that have happened as a result of them, and a lot of questions in the community about whether this is worth it. And so at this point, we don't know who they're pursuing. We just know that this car was taken last night in the carjacking.
And now that car is on Interstate 70 with police in hot pursuit. We have been following this. For the last 15 minutes or so, and we began covering this on the air as soon as we came on tonight. He is heading towards downtown St. Louis right now in this red Ford Fusion, and you can see he's weaving in and out of traffic. It's a very dangerous situation, especially with as many cars as they're on the road this time of night.
Right, and you know, this is all headed toward downtown St. Louis, so this is eastbound on 70, and you know that basically where this will end up is close to the Poplar Street Bridge, where traffic notoriously clogs up at this time of the day. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens if this car and this police officer chasing this car end up stuck in traffic, and how they'll try to apprehend him.
And you can see the car is now using the shoulders and the ramps to get around other cars. It is now in the right lane with two police cars behind it, and there are more police cars behind it even further back that you cannot see on our camera. If you're just joining us, we are following this police pursuit on I-70 right now. This red Ford Fusion is heading towards downtown St. Louis. This is in the middle of rush hour. The driver is wanted in an armed carjacking that happened last night, and police have picked up the tail, and they are trying to catch this red Ford Fusion as it just speeds down I-70.
So the car raced down Riverview, turned onto Broadway, and then got on Interstate 70 heading eastbound. And at this point, traffic looks pretty light in this area, and maybe even safer conditions than we saw back on those surface roads, because people are traveling at higher speeds here on the highway, but still extremely dangerous.
It is dangerous, and because he's going in this direction towards downtown, the traffic is a little lighter than it would be if he were heading, say, west on Interstate 70 or Highway 40.
Well, traffic looks to be getting a little bit thicker here.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure exactly what part of 70 this is. It looks to be they're getting to the Poplar Street Bridge area. Is that are those the downtown exits,
It looks
Mike?
like they may be going past Tucker and where I-70 goes into the Stan Musial Memorial Bridge. It's hard to tell if that's
And
it.
we haven't seen
They're
the
going
police.
past the Hyatt Hotel now, so
There's the police
they're in
vehicle right
downtown
there.
St. Louis. And he continues down Interstate 70 at this hour as police continue to give chase to this red Ford Fusion and apparent armed carjacker.
Okay, so here's the slow traffic we were talking about in the downtown core, and this car appears to be driving on the shoulder of the road. And
he just squeezed through.
Sideswiping people who are trying to get onto the highway. Motorists, I'm sure. Oh my goodness, just hit another car.
There's been a crash. He is now pushing another car
Out
to
of the
keep
way.
going. So two cars come to a standstill, and this car, this red Ford Fusion, crashed into one of them and then just kept going.
And now it doesn't appear that there's any traffic there. I'm not sure if police have closed this off, because it's unusual not to see any other vehicles on this highway. There we go, at this hour. There they are. A very dangerous situation. Again, to recap, last night, this red Ford Fusion was stolen in a carjacking. Police have been pursuing this vehicle on and off all day long in a chase that's gone over the border into Illinois and apparently back again. We picked up the chase about 10 or 15 minutes ago as the car sped down Riverview, onto Broadway, and now onto I-70, where the car crashed into the back of another car that was stopped. And I'm not sure why that car was stopped, Mike, on the highway.
No, we don't know why that car was stopped, and then that red Ford Fusion just pushed it out of the way and kept on going. And so now police are getting a little bit closer, and it looks like
things are falling off the car, or things are being thrown off the car, or the car is slowing down.
The car is definitely slowing down, and I don't know if they threw something out of the car, or if there's actually having some kind of mechanical failure or some kind of vehicle failure. But as we see this continue to happen live on the air, this police continue to pursue this red Ford Fusion, and they are in hot pursuit, and now that car is picking up speed once again. It looked like it was slowing down just a little bit, but now it's picking up speed once again.
So we're going to stay with this for a while. We have an entire newscast prepared for you, but this is live breaking news from our chopper, a live police pursuit involving...
And Kay's getting off the highway now.
Off the highway. This carjacking, Mike, happened last night around 7 o'clock in the 5600 block of Wren. That's in North City, not too far from Bell Fountain Cemetery. No word on whether the person or people in the car now were involved in last night's carjacking. Okay. So at this point, it appears police are uncertain about exactly who's behind the wheel, but they clearly are not stopping for police.
No, and they clearly, the police must have some concern about the people in this car and how dangerous they might be, because obviously, as you mentioned, Kay, there's a lot of debate of whether these police pursuits are worth it, and clearly police at this point do think it's worth it, and now there's a lot of traffic, and this is what you were talking about before, as he gets off the highway, he is now going through intersections, and he just made a right turn with police right behind him.
So what's interesting about this, Mike, is that I believe when this car was on the highway, the circumstances were much safer than they are now with this car back on surface roads. Not sure what the police strategy is at this point, because this police car has been following sort of a safe distance behind. And I'm not sure what the thinking is behind that. Maybe, they're just trying to find, oh, here's an intersection, very dangerous.
This is Lafayette Square near Shoto right now, where this police pursuit continues. And of course, Kay, one of the
car just swerved.
And yet he continues with police right behind.
He's trying probably to decide where to turn to see if he can evade this police car, but every time it gets to an intersection, there we go, turning right, it just increases the chance of an accident.
And this has been a real problem around St. Louis, these carjackings. We were just looking at some statistics that county police have said there have been 53 carjackings between November of 2016 and October 31st of this year. And the city of St. Louis reported 201 carjackings in that same period of time. So that's a lot of carjackings, and it's a big problem in the St. Louis region. And now he's on a roundabout.
Yeah, that was southbound 14th, and now he's turning again, taking a left.
It's almost amazing that we don't see more cars on the road, especially this time of day. And it may be because
these intersections are so dangerous.
And he is leading them on quite a chase as police continue to chase this red Ford Fusion wanted in an armed carjacking from last night.
In the 5600 block of Wren, which is in the city of St. Louis in North City.
So this car is now on Tucker as police continue to give chase. It's 5:11 in the St. Louis area, so we're right in the heart of rush hour in our region. And yet it looks like at least the road on Tucker here is pretty sparse in terms of traffic.
Okay, Mike, I cannot remember the last time that our chopper was able to follow along on a police pursuit like this live on television. This is a really unusual event for us to be able to follow
we
this
do
along
see this
live.
in like Los Angeles area.
Correct.
And some other markets. We don't see this a lot in the St. Louis area. And as we said, there must be some concern about the danger of the person in this car for police to be pursuing this car like they have been for the past 15, 20 minutes.
And there must be some strategy, Mike, for them to be continuing to follow this car that obviously we're not aware of, but whether they're setting out spike strips somewhere or trying to attempt to, predict where he'll go to be able to do that. I mean, you can see these kind of twists and turns. This Ford Fusion is just trying to get away as best it can.
And you can now see the big buildings, the big
That's
tall
downtown
buildings.
St.
So we are
Louis.
in downtown St.
That's
Louis.
Locust Street.
And not far from where we are broadcasting here at 1000 Market Street.
Now, hopefully, people are seeing those flashing lights on the police car and know to stop, because you know how congested downtown St. Louis can be in rush hour. It's
Right.
5:15. People are leaving their offices. They don't know this is going on. And the streets are so tight, so many one-way streets, that this can be a very dangerous situation for people who are unaware of what's going on.
Well, as we've seen, and it can be dangerous, whoever is driving this red Ford Fusion doesn't really care if it's a one-way street or not. He was going down the highway on the wrong side of the road for a little while and down some other service streets on the wrong side of the road. And police continue to give pursuit. They have yet to been able to box them in. And like you say, Kay, these intersections are what makes you really nervous.
Really dangerous. Okay, so let's recap. We are now almost 20 minutes in to this live police chase that we've been covering for you since at least, 4:55?
Right.
This all started last night with a carjacking in the 5600 block of Wren in North St. Louis. This red Ford Fusion was apparently taken by force. Police have been searching for it off and on all day, and actually the police chase at times has gone over into Illinois and back here on the Missouri side, and now police are very close to this vehicle. Oh, it's smoking, or it looks to be like there's some kind of problem with the engine. There's some kind of exhaust or smoke coming out of the vehicle.
They're west on Market right now. If you need to get your bearings, that's where they're going, west on Market at
This vehicle was involved in an accident about 5 or 6 minutes ago on I-70. It had
and
raced
now
down
sparks
Riverview.
are flying from the red Ford Fusion.
Right. One of the tires must have blown, which
Yeah.
is maybe what we saw back on the highway. But this has been just an amazing 15 or 20 minutes of live television watching police trail this red Ford Fusion.
So our producer, who has a much bigger screen than we do, is looking at this and thinks it might be the right front tire. And you remember that crash that we saw a few minutes ago on Interstate 70. He hit the front end of the car, and so that may be what's causing this problem. And now traffic
Driving up
is
on the
stopped.
sidewalk, and he just hit
smashed
another
into
car.
That car.
Okay.
Nearly flipped over.
The chase is
police are getting out of their vehicles, and now they have the guns pointed at this driver, and they're going to try to pull this driver out of the car. And so this police pursuit comes to an end on Market Street.
Not too far from Harris Stowe, apparently. And look at the number of officers on the scene. The car that was hit pulling up a little bit, obviously realizing something more is going on than just being rear-ended. And officers converging on the scene to arrest the driver and anyone else in the car. We're not even sure how many people are in this car at this point.
And it's hard to tell because we're getting the shot from the chopper whether or not they pulled the driver out of the car, but it seems that they have. And you can see how many police are on the scene right now. And so this police pursuit comes to an end near downtown St. Louis.
And hopefully with no injuries. The person in the white car has not gotten out yet. Police now just approaching this passenger car that was up until now really not involved until it was rear-ended by the red Ford Fusion just less than a minute ago.
And clearly someone now in custody. So to recap, police have been chasing this red Ford Fusion in hot pursuit, but they believe that he was involved in some kind of armed carjacking last night. This police chase was on both sides of the river, and it finally comes to an end on Market Street, and you can see all the police.
Look at the number of the police cars on there, Mike. Looks to be almost a dozen police cars on the scene of this end of a chase on Market by Harris Stowe.
Market and Compton by Harris Stowe is where this comes to an end.